Good morning, lovelies. I have put together a video for you for some of the bits and pieces that I think would be really useful for this topic that we're about to be working on. So, first things first, we're talking about labelling angles and lines, and it's really important that we remember how we can label these lines and these angles in shapes in order that we know exactly what we're talking about and what the question is asking us. Okay, so first things first, we always label the points on a shape clockwise, and we always use a capital letter. So for example, with this triangle here that I'm going to draw, obviously with beautiful straight lines, and you'd be drawing it with a ruler, I'm going to label this shape A, B, C, and that has capital letters at the ends on the angles, and they are all going in a clockwise directions. Now I can call this line here, the one that goes between A and B, two things. I could call the line AB and describe it like that, or I could call it line C, and that would be a little letter c, that would be a lowercase c. So line AB or lowercase c. And that's because when we're labelling these lines, we either label it from where we're going to where we end up, using the capital letters of the points, and the points are always labelled with capital letters, or we label it with the little letter, the lowercase letter that's opposite the angle. So this would be lowercase letter C, this side here would be opposite the A, so that would be little letter A, and this one would be little letter B. Okay, so that's line AB. This is either little letter A or capital letter BC, and this line here would be letter AC or little letter B. Okay, that's how we label lines. It's also how we label the angles. But if we're talking about the angles, that's angle A, and on a triangle like that, it's nice and easy for us to see it, but it gets a bit more tricky if we think about it, if there's more than one shape there. So where we've just got one triangle, angle A could either be the acute angle at A, and we label that with the curved line that you're used to, or it could be the reflex angle A, which is the one that goes around the outside. And again, we'd label that with the line. But when we're writing that down, that's all very well and good, so long as there's only that one shape there. But imagine if we had more than one shape attached together. So maybe I had two triangles joined together. That would be perhaps point D, wouldn't it? A, B, C, D, all the way around, and these two triangles. Now then I've got more than one angle at A. So I've got the angle that we already looked at, which was the acute angle in that first triangle at A. We've got the reflex angle that still would go all the way around that I rubbed out a minute ago that was marked in red. We've also got this angle here, which is again a reflex angle that goes around from the line BA or AB round to the line AD. And there's also another angle here, isn't there, that goes from the line AC to AD. So there are several angles at that point. And all of a sudden, if somebody said to you angle A, you wouldn't know which one to measure. So it's helpful to find out which one it could be. And the way that we do that is by talking about our angles with three letters. So in this case, if we wanted to keep it just the original little acute angle that we had, we would call that angle BAC. And that's because it goes from the line BA to the line AC. It's the angle between B and C at A. So it's the angle between B and C at A. And sometimes you'll see that with a little hat on the top as well, and sometimes they won't put the hat on the top. It could be either way. It's a little bit old-fashioned, but sometimes they still put the hat on the top. Okay, so the angle that we were looking at before is angle BAC. If I wanted the angle that I had, or that I've got just here, what do you think that would be? Have a think. It would be angle CAD, wouldn't it? Because it's the angle that goes from C to D via A. Okay. The next thing I want to remind you about is what we call our angles. Just a quick recap, because I know that you remember these, I'm sure. The first one, small angles that are less than 90 degrees are called an acute angle. Remember, it's not two words, it's just one word, acute. ACUTE. A right angle is exactly 90 degrees, and that's the next biggest one. Then bigger than that, but not quite a straight line, is an obtuse angle. That means it's more than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. Then we have a straight line, which is exactly 180 degrees. And then bigger than that would be a reflex angle, which is more than 180 degrees. If I wanted to draw some parallel or perpendicular lines, we have special ways of marking those. So a parallel pair of lines is two lines that never, ever, ever meet. They are exactly the same gradient all the way along as each other. They will never meet. So parallel lines have exactly the same gradient and will never meet. And we mark that on a diagram with a little pair of arrows to show that they match each other. And sometimes if we had a shape with pairs of parallel lines, like for example a rectangle, we could draw two pairs of arrows, one pair just there to show that those lines are parallel and will never meet. Those line segments will never meet, those little bits. And then we could have another pair just here that were double arrows to show that those two lines or line segments were also parallel and would never meet. So we show that we've got more than one set on a shape by drawing them like that. The other kind of lines that we have, and we also have them, excuse me, on a rectangle, are perpendicular lines. A perpendicular pair of lines meet at exactly 90 degrees. Excuse me. So any time you see a 90 degree angle, you have got some perpendicular lines. And those lines meet at exactly 90 degrees, which we mark with the little square rather than an angle, a rounded angle. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you about these kind of shapes and labelling sides is when we have equal lines in a shape. So for example, if I drew myself an equilateral triangle, here it is, my equilateral triangle. We've got the beginning of the word equals at the beginning of the word, which reminds us that all the sides are equal in length. So we can mark that on our diagram by putting these little lines on, and that shows that they're equal in length. And if all of my sides on my shape are equal in length and it's drawn like this, then that means that it would be a regular shape. So an equilateral triangle is an example of a regular shape. If I had an isosceles triangle, and hopefully you remember that two of those sides are equal, so I can label them like that. In my isosceles triangle, that's an example of an irregular shape because not all of the sides are the same. Okay, see you another day. Bye.